Hi, guys. Wanted to wish you a good morning or afternoon whenever you are joining us here. But it is Thursday, October 22nd, and it is time for social studies. So if you haven't done your warm up, please make sure you get that taken care of. But today's warm up asks you, what is a city state? And you should have some description that talks about how a city state is a central city and the countryside around it. That would be what we are looking for. That's kind of a review from yesterday. Yesterday, you should have completed a pair deck that talked about Sumer, the very first civilization to settle in Mesopotamia, and what a lot of historians believe to be the first civilization in the entire world. Now, today, we are still working on identifying and explaining the conditions that led to the rise of early river civilizations. Our goal is to start understanding how the first city structures and writings led to what we see today. How you're going to do that, you have a little bit of notes to listen to and copy down. And then we're going to look at examples of early writings, the writing of the Sumerians and the Akkadians called cuneiform. And you are going to try to practice writing that. And then you're going to have to try to decipher somebody's. And then you have a think about it question at the end that you need to complete. You'll know you've got it when you can describe who started the idea of an empire. And you can explain the importance of a writing system. Now, down here, I'll see you later, but we'll keep going. So if you do not have your packet of notes out, please get that out. And you are going to be taking notes over the Akkadians. Akkadians take over Sumer, bottom half of the page from yesterday. If you do not have a copy of the notes, just on a piece of paper, write down the information, please. So the Akkadians were a group of people that during the time of Sumer, which was in this general area in Mesopotamia, the Akkadians lived directly north of that, kind of right in here. And the Akkadians lived for a long time in peace with the Sumerians, and their civilization was kind of intertwined, and they traded, and they had city-states just like Sumer did. And everything kind of looked the same, and, they did a lot of the same things. However, as time went on, that did change a little bit. So in 2300 BC, a leader kind of took over who became known as Sargon. And Sargon went in and attacked the different city-states in Sumer and was able to take over the entire area. And then he was also able to take over the different city-states in Akkad. And the capital city became Akkad, which is located about right here. But Sargon was able to come through and take over eventually all of this green area that is located on your map. Now, a little bit about Sargon. As Sargon started out, that wasn't his official name. He changed that after he took over all of that land. So what happened was, we don't know exactly his entire birth story, but it is believed that he did not know his father, and his mother did not really tell him what was going on. And there are kind of stories out there, and see if this sounds familiar to you, but there are stories out there that his mom could not keep him, and so he was set adrift in a basket on the Euphrates River, where he was later found by a man named Aki, who was a gardener for the king of the Sumerian city of Kish. And he was raised by that gardener, and as he got older, he became the cup holder or drink holder of that king of Kish. Now, those cupbearers, as they would be called, think of them like a butler in an English household or something like that, but he would have been pretty trusted for most of the time by that king. Now, that king would go through, and he would go through areas of Sumer, and the king of Kish was kind of taking over different city-states one by one. And eventually what happened is the king of Kish and Sargon kind of broke their friendship, I guess you could say. And there's nothing out there that really gives me a lot to tell you how Sargon became so powerful, but he was able to rise up an army, and he was able to go through, and he was taking over his own city-states. And Sargon went to start taking over the area of Akkad. That's when he started changing his name to Sargon, which Sargon, he sometimes was referred to as Sargon the Great, and Sargon was kind of meant the king or the legitimate king, which is why he changed his name to that. Now, eventually, what would happen is Sargon keeps taking over these city-states with his army, and he decides that he's going to go up against his old buddy, the king. And he marches into Kish and starts heading towards Kish. Before he actually gets there, the king comes out to meet Sargon in battle, and Sargon defeats him. A story is out there that Sargon then put the king in chains, tied a rope around his neck, and took him to another city, state of Nippur, and forced him to march through those gates. And then Sargon declared himself king of Kish also. And he was able to go through and take over all of those city-states and gather this whole green region. Now, Sargon was known as being the first to use bow and arrows in warfare, depicting in the pictures that we have seen from that era. We think he was also one of the ones to have kind of a permanent army, and that army always, did what he was told and so on. Now, as Sargon takes over all of that area we looked on the map, and here's kind of another look at the Akkadian Empire under Sargon. This is what is looked at as establishing that world's first empire. So an empire is just defined as a land with different territories and peoples under a single ruler. So because he was able to gather the area of Sumer and all of the city-states within, and then start taking over all the different city-states of Akkad also, and he put that all under his rule, he became known as an empire ruler, or one of them, and one of the very first. So he kind of came up with the world's first empire. Now, his descendants would rule for around 150 years before other groups of people were able to come in and start taking some of those city-states back. And eventually the Sumerians would come back in, and they would take Sumer back over. And then we do start to see kind of the breakup of different civilizations and the rise of new ones, which we'll talk about the rest of this week. Now, this video kind of gives you a visual of how the Akkadians lived and talks a little bit more about Sargon. I'm going to attach it after this. If you want to watch it, feel free to. We're watching it in class. You can watch it at home if you would like. It will be attached after this video. Now, I want you to just kind of review with yourself at home. How did the idea of an empire get started, and who was it that started it? Kind of think about that for a second. So Sargon started the world's first empire, known as Akkad and the Akkadians in Mesopotamia. And he started that by going in and taking over a bunch of different territories and having a very large piece of land that was under just his control. Now, some of the achievements in Sumer that also could be Akkadian achievements. The biggest one is it is believed that they developed the world's first system of actual writing called cuneiform. Now, cuneiform is a wedge-shaped symbols that are used for writing, and they would have used a stylus. Like, think about a clay tablet, or you can even envision like Play-Doh. It would have been clay that was kind of like that. And they used a stylus, like what you might use in art class. Think almost of like a sharpened edge, like of a pencil, and they would make those wedge-shaped marks by pushing in the end of the stylus and then drawing lines and so on. And these are examples of some of the tablets that have been found from that time period. Now we're going to look at cuneiform, and I'm going to give you a handout that has the alphabet on it as best as it can be. And we're going to take a few minutes. You're going to practice kind of using that cuneiform to write your name and come up with a sentence that someone else can translate in class. If you are at home in fourth period from 12:07 to 12:21, if you want to actually have a partner and work together on your assignment and the question that comes after this, you are more than welcome to join us. And here's kind of what you can do with a partner if you come join us. So in Canvas modules, the end of the lesson assignment is the think about it questions for today. And you are welcome to join. Again, it'll be fourth period, which is from 12:07 to 12:21. The code is Sullivan. If you join in the Google Meet at that time, I will work on getting you into a breakout room with a partner, and you guys can work together on answering that question. So there's two questions to answer. Why is a writing system important for a civilization? Why would that be better than the pictographs that ancient peoples used to have? Why would a writing system be important? And then what would civilizations like Sumer and Akkad have used it for? Kind of brainstorm those with your partner and then complete the assignment for today. And we'll kind of continue on talking about this as we go. If you have any questions, please let me know. Send me an email, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Have a great day.